I stopped asking, is this person successful? And I had to start asking before I make those decisions, can this person help me? And can this person help someone whose life is like mine? If you're thinking about making an investment now, I just want you to filter it through a couple of these questions. Can this person help someone like me living the life I'm actually living? Can they help me build my business around my life? Because if the answer is no, it doesn't make them a bad coach. It just means that they may not be your coach. And I promise you that learning that distinction will save you far more money, and it will also save your confidence.
Booked and unbothered, confidence and courage, mindset and messy little moves of entrepreneurship.
Welcome to the Booked and Unbothered podcast, the podcast for high-value women navigating mindset, marketing, and messy middle moves of entrepreneurship. Here is where we turn clarity into cash and presence into power. I'm your host, Yarden CARROLL, mother to 3 amazing boys, wife, storyteller, and brand engineer. Mic on? Let's get into it.
Have you ever noticed that nobody really tells you what entrepreneurship actually costs? And I'm not just talking about the money, because we all know that starting a business can be expensive. And everybody tells you that part. They want you to invest in yourself, buy the course, hire the coach, all of the things, right? But what nobody talks about is those hidden invoices, the ones that don't show up on your Stripe account, they don't show up on your bank statement, they don't show up on your credit card statement. And I'm talking about the invoices that show up in your discernment, the ones that show up when you stop trusting your own judgment and stop trusting yourself. I'm talking about the ones that show up in your confidence, in your marriage, in your peace. Because if I had to look back and think about the money I've invested in my business, it was never about the money. And I really don't think the money was the most expensive thing I've paid. I think those hidden invoices were the most expensive ones that I paid. And today I really want to tell you about the 5 business decisions that cost me the most money. And if anything, I'm hoping that if I can save you from paying the same price, then shit, every one of those was worth it. So I want to welcome you back to the Booked and Unbothered podcast. My name is Yarden CARROLL, and I help high-value service providers build businesses around the life and around their capacity. And after a few years in business, I've learned a lot of things. But if I've learned one thing, it's this, and it's that success is not about making good business decisions. It's about making the right decisions for the right reason, for the right season. And I had to learn that the expensive way. So I don't want to waste any time. I just want to jump right into these business decisions. And the first one was investing in programs that were not built for me. And the first hidden invoice that I paid with was in my confidence. And the crazy part is that I lost my confidence doing exactly what everybody told me to do, right? So I did it. I invested in myself. I joined those coaching programs. I invested in the masterminds, and we'll get into the investments that I've made. But before anybody thinks that this is going to be one of those don't invest in coaching conversation, it's not, because I would invest today and I would invest tomorrow. I would definitely invest in myself again. And primarily is because I believe in coaching, I believe in mentorship, and I believe in proximity. But here's what I didn't know then that I know now. And just because a coach is successful does not mean that their program is built to be successful for you. It doesn't mean that it's built for your life. I never stopped to ask that question. I just assumed that if it worked for them and it worked for others, especially people that look like me, I assumed that if it worked for them, that it was going to work for me. And honestly, I think that's what most of us do, right? We see the testimonials, we see the lifestyles that they live, we see the revenue, we think if I can just get in that room, if I could just get into that program, everything's going to click. And that's exactly what I thought when I invested into these programs. But instead, I remember sometimes sitting in some of these rooms and feeling like everybody else was having a completely different conversation. People were talking about hiring. People were talking about scaling. People were talking about managing teams and building departments and how many different investment and income streams that they've had. And I'm just sitting here in the same room with these same people wondering, are we even having the same conversation? And I'm just sitting here thinking like I'm still trying to consistently generate leads. I wasn't behind, but that's what I felt. I felt like I was behind when I was listening to these conversations. I'm like, my God, you guys are doing X, Y, and Z, building departments, hiring people. And I'm just trying to generate some leads for my business. So when I thought about it, in hindsight, I wasn't behind. I was just in a different season of business, but I didn't know that. So instead of questioning whether the program fit my season, I questioned myself. And I thought maybe I just wasn't disciplined enough or I wasn't implementing the strategy right. Something was off. But then I know this to be true because I know I put my heart and soul into any and everything that I invest my time in. So when things weren't working, the next thing to do was to question myself. Have you ever done it? Have you ever thought that maybe I'm not cut out for this thing? Or have you ever looked at somebody else's results and you just think immediately it made it mean something about you? And that's what was happening when I was in those rooms. And honestly, that was the most expensive part. It was not about the money that I put into these masterminds, into these programs. It was the lack of confidence that I had sitting next to these people. Because once I started doubting myself and I started not trusting myself, I started to outsource my judgment to the person who I hired. And then every business decision becomes what would they do instead of what's right for me. So that is a really dangerous place to be in and to build a business from. And looking back, those programs weren't bad. A lot of them were really, really good. They just were not meant or built for someone whose life looked like mine. Like I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm raising 3 boys, one with special needs. I still have a full-time 9 to 5, and I'm building my business before and after work, and sometimes even on weekends and my lunch break. Shit, I'll even throw a little bit of the ADHDism in there. I got that too. So I did not filter that business decision or that program through that lens. And not for nothing, my capacity isn't unlimited. Some days I can get 10 things done. Other days I have to fight to get one meaningful thing done. And none of that makes me less capable. None of that makes me less entrepreneurial. It just means I had to have a different approach. And then that realization changed everything for me because I stopped asking, is this person successful? And I had to start asking before I make those decisions, can this person help me? And can this person help someone whose life is like mine? Because those are totally different questions to ask. So today, that's one of the first questions I ask before I invest anything. And it's not because I'm skeptical. It's really because I've learned that alignment matters more than admiration. And I can admire anyone. And you can admire someone and still not be the right type of client for them. So I really want you to think about if you're thinking about making an investment now, I just want you to filter it through a couple of these questions. And don't ask the coach if they feel they can get you the results, because some of these people will tell you yes, even if they can't. So I would prefer ask something like this. Can this person help someone like me living the life I'm actually living? Can they help me build my business around my life? Because if the answer is no, it doesn't make them a bad coach. It just means that they may not be your coach. And I promise you that learning that distinction will save you far more money, and it will also save your confidence. And you know what's really interesting is that losing my confidence did not make me stop investing. I actually made me invest more. Once I stopped trusting myself, I had to start looking for someone else to tell me what to do. So that is the lead into business decision number two, is that you would think someone who lost their confidence in themselves would stop investing. No, I kept investing. I started hiring and looking for someone to tell me what to do. And that is what brought me to my second hidden invoice that I paid. And that was with my time. And business decision number two was thinking that more information, thinking that the more information or the more strategies that I got from investing more would help me solve these problems. And I have a confession to make. I used to think that learning and growing were the same thing, and they are completely different. And for a long time, every time I hit a wall in my business, I'd buy another book, I'd invest in another course, I'd attend another workshop. I mean, if you open my Google Drive, I have templates and blueprints and roadmaps from everybody you can possibly think of. And now a lot of it is just for research purposes. But before that, no, I would have 20 bazillion tabs open, highlighting chapters, notebooks, PDFs, Canva templates, all of the things. Every single item I tell myself, and some of them I didn't even read. I'm going to be honest with you. But I was constantly telling myself that I'm making progress because I was investing more time and more money into these things. And looking back, I wasn't making any progress. I wasn't making any progress at all. I was making myself feel better. And there's a difference because learning sometimes feels productive, and it scratches that itch that we have, that if we finish a webinar, we'll come up with the solution. I've got it, right? Or if you leave that mastermind or that trip or you have that conversation, you're going to leave fired up and you're going to do something different, right? Or you listen to that Audible book for the fifth time and suddenly everything's going to make sense to you. Now that's Thursday, you finished the book, but you've been sitting on the knowledge saying it's got to soak in, and then come Monday morning when it's time to actually implement, that's when things will get hard for me because implementation forces me to make a decision. Learning doesn't. Learning lets me stay in the possibility, whereas implementation makes me pick. And shit, making a decision and picking is scary for some of us, right? Like even me start his podcast. This is scary to me because I have to let go of any other option. And it's not that I thought I was maybe I was addicted to information. I think I was addicted to certainty. I was addicted to strategy. I mean, one more framework couldn't help me, or one more person to tell me this is exactly what you should do. That wasn't going to hurt me, right? Because if somebody else told me, then if it didn't work, then it wasn't my fault. And see how sneaky that is? It's like collecting all this knowledge, but I really wasn't collecting any knowledge. I was outsourcing my responsibility. That was the hardest thing to admit because it sounded responsible. It sounded like I was investing in myself and I was doing the work. But if I'm being honest, sometimes I was hiding. I was hiding behind some of those investments because hiding behind another course or hiding behind another certification just made me feel productive. Downloading another podcast because as long as in my mind, I was telling myself as long as I was learning, I did not have to risk finding out whether I could actually execute it. I mean, have you ever done that? Have you ever convinced yourself that all you needed was one more thing before you could launch it? I know I'm not the only person. One more round of website tweaks or one more YouTube video. You just think if you watch one more, whatever, then everything was going to fall into place. And I lived there. I lived there for a very long time. And then one day I realized something, that none of the businesses that I had admired were built because someone knew more than everyone else. It was not because someone knew more than everyone else. It was because they were willing to act. They were willing to execute. They were willing to implement. Even some of them did that before they felt completely ready. And that's a completely different skill. And although knowledge is really important, I don't want you to hear me saying that knowledge isn't important because knowledge is very important. But knowledge without implementation is really just entertainment, honestly, because I entertained the hell out of myself. I felt like I was being productive. And that's exactly what I had turned personal development into. I turned it into a source of entertainment because here's what nobody tells you. The market doesn't reward what you know. The market does not reward what you know. The market rewards what you build. And your clients don't pay you because you watched a webinar. They don't pay you because you read another ebook. They don't pay you for that. They pay you because you solved their problem. And that's a big difference. So now I have a rule. Before I buy a course or before I read another book or download another podcast, I ask myself, have I actually implemented what I already know? And if the answer is no, I don't need more information. I need the courage to build the fucking thing that I already know how to build. And when I ask myself that question, I really ask myself, have I actually implemented the last thing that I bought? Or implement the things that I know to do. I don't need more information. I need the courage to build the damn thing. And that, I'm telling you, that will change your mindset, and it will change, shit, it'll even save you some money. But more importantly, it saved me years because I was sitting on this podcast for a whole year. I can only imagine if I consumed more information and didn't just act on the things that I knew. And these are years I would have spent preparing for a business I could have been building. The time was going to pass either way, but why spend time wasting and preparing? And so I'm going to ask you, what's sitting in your notebook right now that should already be in your business or already be a business? Because I have a feeling you probably know more than you think you do. You've spent years consuming all this information. And maybe the next breakthrough isn't about hiding in another course that you plan to buy. Maybe it's hiding in something you've already learned or already know or already done, but you just have not trusted yourself enough. You haven't trusted yourself enough to implement it. The funny thing is, all that information that you're sitting on, all that information did was give me something I didn't even realize I was chasing. And it's examples, people to copy, people to model. And before I knew it, I wasn't just borrowing people's ideas. I was really trying to build someone else's version of success in somebody else's business. And that's crazy to me. And that's another invoice I didn't see coming. That's business decision number 3. That I was really trying to build somebody else's business and somebody else's version of success. And I think that this is where a lot of us lose ourselves. We can't find our voice. And honestly, I didn't even realize that I was doing this until I was outsourcing my authority and outsourcing responsibility to other people, where I started following people I admired, watching how they launched, how they wrote, how they showed up online. How did they sell? What did their funnel look like? And without realizing that, I started sounding just like these people. You know, I thought being professional at work and being professional meant toning and watering myself down. Shit, I let the best part to me go. The funny part, the sarcastic part, the witty part. I stopped saying what I actually thought because I was worried that it would not sound eloquent enough or expert enough. So the same behavior I was exhibiting in corporate, I started to exhibit in my own business, which I started that code switching shit in my own business. And that's the crazy part, is the more polished I became, the less people were connected with me. Mainly because I was borrowing other people's blueprints and using their templates to help build my business. No wonder it didn't feel aligned with me. And the crazy part about all of this is that the more polished I became, the less I recognized myself. And then the less people connected with me. And it wasn't until I got tired of pretending that things started to shift for me. I started talking the way I actually talk. I stopped trying to sound like everybody else on the internet. And when I realized that, I just wanted to find my voice again. And I hate even saying that out loud. But when I heard someone tell me that it feels like I'm in their head when I'm at my workshops and I'm telling them and explaining things, that never happened to me, especially if I'm copying somebody else's blueprint and I'm saying it in their exact voice. That never happened to me. So what I learned was people don't connect with perfection. They connect with honesty. And I wasn't being fucking honest when I was doing that. So ultimately, the next best thing was when I started to articulate it in my words, I started to connect more with people. So people didn't connect with perfection. They connected with the authentic version of me, of the honest version of me. So I want to ask you, where are you currently editing yourself because you're trying to sound like your mentor or your coach, or you're trying to sound like the business owner that you think you're supposed to sound like? Because I'm going to challenge you here. The very thing that you're hiding might be the very thing people are waiting to connect with. So here's the funny thing is, once I finally started building a business that sounded like me, then I realized I had another problem, that the business I built still did not fit my life. It did not fit my life because I did not build it for me. I did not build it around my life. So that's actually business decision number 4, where you're building a business that doesn't fit your life. So I used to think that being exhausted meant I was doing entrepreneurship right. And if it wasn't working, then I would feel guilty. If I rested, I felt ashamed. I even felt like I was falling behind. There was a time when if I wasn't posting every single day or hosting these workshops biweekly, then I had convinced myself that I was being punished by the algorithm. And I know that sounds familiar. I was following business advice from people whose full-time job was their business. Mine was not. I had a corporate career. I have 3 boys, 1 special need, a husband, a house, a life I actually wanted to enjoy. And somewhere along the lines, I built my business and I forgot that I was building this business to create more freedom, not less. So that was a big wake up call for me. And here's the thing. Last year was my highest grossing year, but I was exhausted and I knew I had to go back to the drawing board and refine and revisit my current business and take inventory of how I felt about it. I still love doing what I do. So now I ask different questions. And after taking 6 months off, I'm telling you, you got a lot of time to sit with yourself. You have a lot of time to talk to yourself. And you have to realize that you know more than you actually think you know. You just have to ask better questions. So now I don't ask, how do I fit my life around my business? I ask, how do I build a business that fits my life? Because if success costs you your peace, I'm not sure that's what success is supposed to feel like. I'm not sure that's what success is supposed to look like. So ask yourself, is your business supporting your life? Or is your life supporting your business? And that leads me to the last invoice. And this one might have been the most expensive of them all. You don't get this back. And this is business decision number 5. And waiting, and I know somebody knows what I'm talking about. And it's waiting until you feel ready. Waiting until I felt ready, like that is bogus to me now that I think about it. Waiting until I felt ready? I almost didn't start this podcast. I almost didn't start my business because I was waiting until I was ready. And it's not because I didn't want to. It's because I genuinely thought that I wasn't ready. I kept telling myself, I'm going to find somebody on YouTube who can tell me a step-by-step way to do this. 1 more month, 1 more week, 1 more tweet, all of these things I kept telling myself. And I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine, and I was telling her I was going to launch it next week. I was going to do this. And she didn't say it, but I saw the look on her face where it was almost like she didn't believe me. And I don't fucking blame her. I had been saying this for so long. So then I'm finally like, I'm just going to launch it. I gave myself a time. I gave myself a date. And I said, it's not perfect, but I'm going to launch it anyway. And the problem with waiting is there's always another win. I'll do it when I have more followers. I'll do it when my website's done. I'll do it when my logo is better. I'll do it when I feel more confident, when I know more, when life slows down. When. I'll do it when. And before you know it, a year has gone by, 5 years have gone by. Now, the time passes either way. But here's what finally hit me is confidence wasn't something I was going to just wake up and have. Confidence was not something I was going to earn unless I showed up, unless I did it imperfectly, unless I hit publish when I wasn't ready. I hit record when I wasn't ready. But by being willing to be seen before I felt completely ready, I didn't become confident enough to launch it. I just launched it. And even recording this episode, I'm making mistakes all the time, but I launched it anyway. And the more reps I'm putting in, the confidence is it's slowly catching up. So I want to say this, and I want to say this with love and as a reminder that if you've been waiting, this right here is your reminder. You don't have to feel ready. You just have to be willing to start. Honest to God, you got to be willing to start. You just got to be willing to begin, because the opportunities that you don't take, my friend, I'm telling you, that will be another invoice of regret. You do not want the invoice of regret to show up knocking at your door. And before I wrap up, I just want to leave you with one more question, because my goal is not to teach you what to do all of the time. I want to ask you better questions so you can ask yourself these same questions. And the next time you're about to make a business decision, I don't want you to ask yourself if you can afford it. I don't want you digging in your pocket, looking in your bank account, asking how much does this cost? I want you to ask yourself, what is the hidden cost? What's the hidden invoice associated with this, whether you do it or not? Because I can assure you, the biggest costs in business, they are not usually financial. Sometimes it's your peace, sometimes it's your energy, your capacity. Sometimes there's the opportunities you'll never get back. So my goal for you is to really stop waiting until you're ready. Trust yourself enough to make the decision, and make the decision right. I'm going to challenge you. Chase those big goals, build those profitable businesses, but don't build it at the expense of yourself. So if this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to share it with another entrepreneur or someone who's navigating the messy middle. And if you're enjoying the show, like, subscribe, leave a review. And I will also love for you to sign up for my newsletter, and we can continue these conversations offline. I'll put the links in the show notes. Follow me on social media. But until next time, the goal is to stay booked and stay unbothered. See you later. Bye.